Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you again for tuning in. Today we are back with a new topic, and today we are going to talk a little bit about toxic relationships. And I decided to purposely label it as toxic relationships because I don't want to just focus on romantic relationships, but really just all kinds of toxic relationships. Could be with your friends, could be an actual romantic relationship, could be at work, and it could even be with people at church. It could even be with family. So let's get into it, right? We know that the term toxic has it's always been around, but it's turned very popular. We have songs about it, right? In like Spanish, we say, ella es bien tóxica or él es bien tóxico. He's very toxic. She's very toxic. And that pretty much just means like something toxic is something that's clearly not good for you. Like, I mean, in the literal medical term, something toxic can literally kill you. So that reference or scientific reference has now been used to attach it to people that just are not good for you, like they're just bad for you. So yeah, it's gained popularity recently. So that's really what, for anybody that happens to maybe not have never heard it or doesn't understand what that means, that's what a toxic person is. It's just somebody that's not good for you. So yeah, that is pretty much a toxic person in a nutshell, somebody that is not good for you. So toxic relationships, I wanted to talk about that because I think that even as adults, like it's very hard to never have found yourself or never ever find yourself in your lifetime in a toxic relationship of some sort. Again, does not have to be romantically, could be a friendship, could be a relationship you have with a coworker, acquaintance, and it can even be a toxic relationship with family. So I think that all of us in life, if you have not yet lived it, will probably experience some sort of toxic relationship. And again, someone that's not good for you, a relationship that's not good for you. And at least for me personally, how I define something that's not good for me is it doesn't necessarily mean that that person is bad. I want to make that very clear because I definitely think that I have toxic family. I think we all do. If you don't, consider yourself super, super lucky. I think that we all have at least a family member that's like toxic, that's not necessarily good for you to be around. And I think that when it comes to us thinking someone is toxic, that is definitely subjective. So they might be toxic to me, but it might not be toxic to someone else. Think about it literally like you have an allergy. If I'm allergic to peanuts are great. I'm sure they are packed with protein. They have lots of great health benefits. But for me, it will literally kill me. Like, it's not good for me. It does not do me well. It's not that the peanuts are bad. They're just bad for me. And that's exactly how I view toxic people, toxic relationships. There are some people that are just not good for me. They're not good for where I'm going, maybe not good for where I'm trying to get to or where I am at the moment. They're just not necessarily bad people. And I say that because I wanted to start off with toxic family. I think that that is one of the most common toxic relationships that we will find ourselves in our lifetime. And it's so hard to break from that, especially if you come from cultures where family is so important. In the Hispanic culture, I'm Hispanic. Family is very important to us, like we do, besale la mano a tu tío, like, it's pretty much a way of like showing your respect, right? And you grow up hearing that, like even people that you've maybe only come across once, like you don't even know that's your uncle, your aunt, you're still supposed to like have respect for them, besale la mano, like get their blessing or whatever. I don't really know how it fully translates to English, but there is this like unspoken kind of standard that family is important and family's family no matter what. And you kind of gotta invite family to like all events and just be there because it's family and they have to be in your life because they're family. And that's the mentality I grew up with, and I quickly realized as I became an adult and I created my own family that family a lot of times is not necessarily who you share blood with. Family a lot of times is not necessarily the best for you either, for your growth or to be around them, there are times that you have to detach yourself. Now, I definitely believe again in a lot of grace and mercy, and I love every single one of my family members. I love them. I pray about them. If I have to see them, I say hi. I don't have a family member that I'm just like, I won't talk to that person. Like, I don't want to talk to them ever in my life. No, because I don't hold any resentment against anybody. But I definitely think that we have to know, and it's hard adulting because you have to learn to establish boundaries. And as an adult, you're also very judged for establishing boundaries, especially when it comes to establishing family boundaries. Oh my God, that is so hard. And let's not even dig too much into when you become a parent. If you're a parent, like, you totally understand what I'm saying. Establishing boundaries within your family is the hardest thing ever. You're here trying to break cycles, trying to be a better parent than your parent was, not putting down the work that they did with you, because clearly we turned out all right. But we want to do better. Like, if we were good, we want to make sure our kids are great. We want to give them so much more. And sometimes we choose to do things differently and cut out a lot of the ways things were always done for generations and generations. And we want to turn things around. And it's establishing those boundaries that allows us to do that and to sometimes provide a way better life for our kids. And it's the hardest thing. You're going to be extremely judged by the family members around you. You know, they're going to think, oh, who does she think she is? Like, here she goes trying to be white, trying to be American. Again, talking from my Hispanic perspective, that's a lot of the backlash that we get, you know. Oh, your kid, like, I did that with my kid. Like, nothing's going to happen. I choose the boundaries I want to set, right? In my personal case, I have people that are family, but I don't talk to them. We don't have a relationship. And I've always said from the beginning, this is something my husband and I agree on. I'm like, we can have our opinions about certain family members. We can have certain relationships with our family members. When it comes to my kids, the decision we have chosen is that we're not ever going to talk bad about family members or people to our kids. We are going to allow our kids to grow up and make their own decision based on what they see and who they know. Because I'm also a big believer in family. Sometimes it's your chosen family. Like, that's the greatest family of all, is the people you choose to really be in your circle, to the people you choose, right, that show up and support you. I think that that's the most important family that you could ever have. And sometimes they do more than your actual family, to be totally honest. And I've seen that, like, firsthand, you know, with my kids. I've had people show up a lot more than family has, and it's not to put family down. I think that each person does what they can, and everybody's circumstance is different. Some people are busier than others. I've always said, though, I'm gonna be intentional. I'm gonna show up for what I want to show up for. I'm gonna make the extra effort for who I want to make the extra effort for. So I operate that way. Other people might not see it that way, right, and can give you excuses up and down all day, but I'm a very, like, I don't like excuses. You know, you do what you want. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. We make the effort where we want to make it and for who we want to make it for. So I've always said my kids are going to see that. My kids are eventually going to grow up and they're going to know who's putting in effort, right? Who's calling them, who's actually trying to keep a relationship with them. I'm not going to force them to have a relationship with anyone. I'm not going to have them grow up with the mentality that I had, which is like, I have to have like this utter respect and like, oh my God, when I'm in front of like an uncle and aunt that they don't know me, they don't call me, like they've done nothing ever to maintain a relationship with me. Again, right, if I see them, like, hi, you know, happy to see you, but not feeling like this pressure when you really don't even know this person. Like, a lot of times I would say, like, these people have no idea, like, they don't even know what my last name is right now that I'm married. They don't know how old I am. Like, they don't know what month I was born. Like, basic stuff. I'm not talking about like in depth knowing a lot about me, but like basic stuff they don't even know. Like, my next door neighbor might know more about me than a family member, you know. And that's where I feel like the disconnect is like feeling this obligation to have relationship with people that never did anything to establish or keep a relationship with you. Like, always respect them. I always teach my kids to like say hi, but I think that it becomes toxic when you are forced or you're forcing people on your kids. And that whole like, oh, besa la mano, like, why am I getting a blessing from someone like I don't even know, you know? Like, to me, that's crazy. I understand that it goes with like respect, but I always felt uncomfortable like as a kid, and it's like I'm not gonna have my child feel uncomfortable, just like I don't believe in forcing them to hug people, kiss people, and all these other things, right? So yeah, I think that we're very, very judged when we decide to cut off toxic family. And again, does not mean that they are bad people. They might be great people, great for their circle, great for who they're around, but they might just not be good for you. You know, like they might just be someone that's full of negativity, and you're just trying to flow and go in a direction where you're trying to view life from a more positive lens. It's really hard to do that when everybody around you is just such a negative person. So again, they might be good people, but they might not be good for you. They don't have to necessarily be. Everybody is not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. Like, that's why God made us all different. We were not all meant to just all mesh together, be the same, love everything about one another, and that's okay. So I think family toxic relationships are the hardest to break. It's the hardest, where you're gonna battle the most in terms of cutting people off. And again, my version of cutting people off is not we're enemies. I love you. I pray for you. We're family. That's not going to change. I don't need it to change. But we just may not maintain a daily communication and have like an established tight relationship. We're just more from afar. Like, that's family. Yes, I love her. I care about her well-being. You know, I wish you well. But everybody kind of in their own place. And I think that that's totally okay. But I think it's definitely the hardest toxic relationships to kind of break, because, you know, if you grow up in a culture where family is so important, you're kind of taught, like, even if they're terrible, you have to have some sort of relationship with them. And I definitely don't agree with that. Another one that's very popular is toxic friendships. Honestly, I think that they're more popular than romantic toxic relationships. I think toxic friendships is something we will all battle with or have battled with. And there's just always going to be people you encounter that just end up not being good for you. And I think sometimes that takes time. Another thing that I think is important to establish is, as human beings, we are constantly changing. That is never going to change. The only constant thing in life is change. And that includes us. Like, we're constantly evolving and constantly changing. And that's great. If you're not changing, you're not constantly evolving, like there's really something lacking there. Because we should continue to strive to be better people and grow in all aspects of life. The person I am today is not the person I was 5 years ago, and I hope it's not the person I am 5 years from now. I hope to continue to grow and evolve. And what happens when we continue to grow and evolve is sometimes that friendship that was good for me 2 years ago is not good for me right now. It's not going in the direction maybe where I want my life to go. And again, that is okay. I think that it's super important to identify that everybody's not meant to be permanent in your life. There are friendships that are meant to be temporary, and they might be great for the time being, but then you grow apart, or you make a very intentional decision to just part ways, because you got to do what's best for you. And I think the toxic friendships is definitely something we will all or have all encountered. I know for myself, when I was in high school, and I thank God for the friends that I had. I have no idea what my journey would have been like in high school without those friends, and I think about that all the time. Like, it would have been so different. It might have been very lonely. Like, I really don't know. So I had good friends, but those friendships ran their course. I hit a moment in my life when I was in high school. I had a lot of like identity crisis. I was really trying very hard. Like, I was making it my business to try and be somebody that I was not. I wanted to just blend with the crowd. And I just wanted to be like everybody else, and I want to be different. I was fighting whatever inside me was making me different. Like, I was just like, God, like, no, like, I just want to be cool. I want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be different. And that was a constant battle. And honestly, I have great memories with the friends that I had. And I don't know what my journey would have been like. You know, I don't know if high school would have been as fun and felt as inclusive and like a happy place for many years had I not had those friendships. However, I came to terms in my spiritual life. Like, I made a decision eventually, I believe it was like my maybe end of junior, more like senior year, that's it. Like, I was done playing both sides. I really wanted to just commit my life once again to Christ and live a very transparent life where it wasn't this double life, and I wasn't just running away and trying to pretend to be someone I wasn't. And I realized that my life was heading in a totally different direction, right? My friends were going this way, I was going this way. And it's not to say that with the path they were heading was a bad path, not at all. I think everybody, has lived their life how they've chosen to live it. I just decided to live it a different way. And I knew that where I was going, those friendships couldn't come. Like, they were at that moment toxic. They were just not going to be good for me. Again, great people. The relationship I had with them was great, but where my life was headed and the decisions I had made and who I knew I wanted to become, there was no space for them, right? So I had to not, respectfully part ways with them, appreciative, right, of all the memories. But I think that it's something we have to be very aware of, that there are friendships that are meant to be temporary. Yes, there are great, permanent, long-time friendships, but there's also relationships that run their course, friendships that run their course. And once you deem this person is not helping me grow, then, you might just need to peacefully just go your way, allow them to go their way. And eventually, the great thing is that you will encounter people that direction you and help you get to where you're trying to go. And I think it's the same in romantic relationships. I think that those toxic relationships are a lot harder to break as well. It's very hard a lot of times to realize that you are in a toxic relationship. And I mean, I've been in a toxic relationship. I used to be in a toxic relationship with who's now my husband. Like, it was very toxic. It was not good for either of us. We were not the best version of ourselves. And I testified a little bit about our journey already, right? Obviously, we seeked help, right? We buckled down with God, and God really did great things. That's not everybody's case. And I don't think it's a one size fits all. I think every situation is different. I think that's why you really need discernment, and you really need to know in your heart of heart what is the right decision for you. Essentially, I honestly think that all relationships that you have in your life, whether it's with family, friends, romantic relationship, they're all supposed to push you in some sort of way to want to be the best version of yourself, to want to be a better person. That's not to say there won't be times where your bad side comes out, right? And where a side of you comes out. We all have emotions, right? And our family, friends, husbands, boyfriends, they're all gonna piss us off, if not, like, that's kind of weird that we're not gonna get under each other's skin. It's kind of like siblings, like, that's okay. But where it gets toxic is where you are now in a friendship or in a relationship with a family member, in an emotional relationship that's not preventing you from going anywhere. You kind of end up in the same circle and cycle of life, and you don't find your way out of that, and you don't like where you're at, and you're maybe trying to progress, but you keep hitting a roadblock because of the people that are in your life. Those are the toxic people that we need to cut out. And don't feel bad when you cut off toxic family, when you cut off toxic friendships, or when you end a romantic relationship that was toxic. You need to choose what is best for yourself. And we each need to know where we're trying to go in life. Like, who am I trying to be tomorrow? And are the people that are currently in my life helping me go in that direction? Or are they actually backtracking me and keeping me going back, right? And doing the same things I'm not really trying to do, and maybe thinking the same way that I'm trying to break out of that cycle, out of that mentality, and these people are just continuing to keep me there. That's when we really need to part ways. And sometimes it doesn't have to be no contact. Sometimes it's really just drifting apart a little bit, right? Maybe you used to talk to this person once a week. Maybe now it's more like once every couple of months. You're keeping in touch, right? But you're kind of keeping everybody at arm's length, a little bit of a distance, because you don't need everybody in your inner circle knowing all the ins and outs of what goes on in your life. We really need to be selective. It's super, super important, because ultimately who we surround ourselves by, that's who we become. And our friends are a reflection of us. We're a reflection of them. Like, you do become who you're surrounded by, and what you're surrounded by. That becomes what feeds you and fuels you. So it's very important that we're selective. And when we identify a toxic relationship, don't feel bad. You got to do what you got to do. You really have to choose your peace, your sanity, what's going to be the best decision for you. And ultimately, when you start to have kids, for your family also. There are times that I may love being around someone and I may have a lot of love for them, but the example maybe they're setting for my kids is not the best. Hard decision to make, especially if it's family, but sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to make sacrifices, even if it hurts you sometimes, to depart yourself and clear ways, with people. It might hurt you. You might not love to do it, but it might be what's best. I think that that's ultimately also why some couples come to the decision that they're just better off not together than together. Everybody knows their own situation, right? And we just never want our kids to grow up around things that are not the best for them and that are not going to shape them to be the best human being that they could possibly be. So definitely gets harder as we're adulting, cutting people off, but it definitely becomes so necessary for our own peace, our own tranquility, and to really just have joy. You don't want anyone around you just sucking the life or sucking the joy out of you. Everybody around you should bring you immense joy, and there should be laughter. Will there be ups and downs? Of course, with every relationship, right? But the highs should always heavily outweigh the lows. So I encourage you to not feel bad as we get older and navigate adulthood. Boundaries are so necessary. I'm still struggling and learning with that. But I encourage you, if you've identified toxic family, toxic friendships, toxic relationship, pray about it honestly. Ask God, like, how do I go about this? And he'll definitely give you clarity, because at the end of the day, we need to be selective with who we have within our life. And some people are just better off at arm's length. So I hope you're able to cut out all the negative and keep all the positive.